What's up, guys? It's Benny. What do we always say about Kash and Dan Bongino at the FBI? Let them cook, judge them by their results. These guys aren't there to mess around. They didn't leave lucrative careers to go play cutesy time inside of the beating, blackened heart of darkness that wanted both of them dead, that tried to put Kash Patel in prison. They aren't there to make friends. They're there at the FBI to F things up, to absolutely and totally ensure that it is a scorched earth operation against the deep state. And Kash Patel, going live on Fox News just moments ago, did exactly that. Seconds before Kash Patel went live on Fox, the FBI began releasing evidence of absolute and total criminal corruption inside of the Bureau to try and rig the election against Donald Trump. FBI declassifies a secret document revealing a dramatic development in hunt for the origins of the Russiagate probe. Effectively, what they're saying is that the people who created the Russiagate probe lied demonstrably to Congress. Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, a very powerful person, is raging at this. And they have referred some of the major liars who were directly connected to the FBI and the Steele dossier and Hillary Clinton. They've referred her for criminal prosecution. Her name is Nell Orr. Kash Patel began his interview on Fox News going scorched earth against Russiagate. Of course, Kash Patel worked in Trump's first administration. Russiagate was designed to destroy President Trump in his election and then in his first administration. It hampered so much of what they were doing. Kash Patel knows this as a National Security Council member and then also at the Pentagon. And he says, you haven't even seen how bad it got. People are going to prison. We found the documents. They were hiding them from us, and we got them.
This is about Crossfire Hurricane. You just talked about that, all that you've been learning. Can you give us a little of that wave of transparency?
Absolutely. So just quickly on Crossfire Hurricane, that is a continuing production. We have found material, and I'm the Crossfire Hurricane guy, that I didn't even know existed in FBI holdings.
So there's been held someplace else? Or
that's been stashed away in locations that people thought we wouldn't find it because we wouldn't know to look for it there. And as promised with my congressional partners, I'm working with Congress on constitutional oversight because that's what the American people deserve. And those documentations have been flowing to Congress nonstop on a rolling basis since that interview.
They stashed it away thinking we wouldn't be able to find it, and now it's been flowing to Congress. Congress is going to, of course, refer for criminal prosecution. That's something that Congress does. The FBI doesn't charge people. This is under Congress's purview, government oversight. What about January 6th? Get a load of this.
January 6th, and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that, and we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information, and it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Former FBI Director Chris Wray eventually admitted to Congress there were 26 FBI confidential human sources in and around the Capitol January 6th, but not actual agents. Can you say that's true? Are there more than that? What you're learning from that?
I can say that that is definitely a piece of the truth. Why it took a ton of time for and questioning in Congress for the director to get that point is what I'm trying to eliminate from the FBI. If Congress asks you a question under oath, whether or not there were sources in around January 6th at the Capitol, you as the director of the FBI need to know that and not deflect and give a DC answer. You have to be prepared for that. And that's the answer we're giving. That's the answer Chris Wray should have given.
And eventually everybody's going to know the whole picture.
Yeah, because the American people deserve that. And look, no one's more frustrated than me. Remember, I was chief of staff of the Department of Defense on January 6th. We said that we were ready, and the president had previously authorized the National Guard to be there days in advance. I spent 2 years, a small fortune, grand juries, to testify to the truth. And what happens now, years later? We were right. Bowser and Pelosi rejected that offer. And instead of figuring out how to prevent security lapses like that ever again, the American public spent tens of millions of dollars and countless hours on TV listening to conspiracy theories because those in positions of leadership failed to tell the American public the truth.
What an excellent answer. Kash Patel was the first person subpoenaed by the Marxist tyrannical January 6th committee. This is something that has definitely gotten under his skin, and something that he is not going to allow to happen or carry on. He is going to destroy this hoax, as he calls it, a conspiracy theory. He calls January 6th a conspiracy theory. Wild stuff. So many operations to rig the presidency against Donald Trump. What about Dan Bongino and all of this? Great series here, A Volley with Dan Bongino and the pipe bomber.
Like many people, I believe the FBI knows the identity of this pipe bomber on January 6th, 4 years ago, and just doesn't want to tell us because it was an inside job.
Why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? You know, they know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is.
Does the FBI know who it is?
The FBI, under me and Dan Bongino's leadership, has reestablished that investigations of great public importance that almost blew up the DNC and RNC in Washington, D.C., an area in which then Vice President Harris was in the vicinity of, is something that needs to be answered. And we learned that FBI leadership in the prior administration slow-rolled and basically shut that investigation off. So we turned it on. And we have some great leads, and Dan is actually going to talk about that when he does Fox and Friends tomorrow.
Okay. You don't want to give us a little something?
I can't get ahead of everybody.
All right, all right.
So Dan Bongino is also expected to break tomorrow that he is opening a full-scale investigation into the origins of COVID, including multiple field offices. Dr. Fauci's cover-up is about to be exposed. This, ladies and gentlemen, would be very, very refreshing. Again, we'll see what comes of it. Back to Kash.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah.
So he says the reason that the Epstein files have taken so long is it's taken years of cover-ups, and that they were digging through years of cover-ups and also some pretty nasty material. Everybody kind of expected that. But then he reasserts that Epstein did kill himself. You're just going to have to come out with all of the evidence, all of the photos, all of the details, everything, for anyone to believe that. I think that that is probably the largest contention that is a real head scratcher for people. So again, out with it. Speaking of assassinations, what about President Trump's assassinations? Is there a larger conspiracy there?
On assassination attempts, I did ask the president on the Middle East trip about this. Is there frustration on your part? Will we get transparency? Will we know the bottom line story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible. I think Kash is incredible. I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is. You know, we have deep-seated craziness in this country, and I'm relying on my people, and so far they're good. But so far and in this case it's Secret Service, they tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
You know, it sounds like he wants more about at least the Butler guy that we don't know a lot about. Will we know a lot more about him? Is there more to know?
I don't know that there's more to know, but you're going to know everything we know. And that's the other thing we did. We take assassination attempts, especially of the President of the United States, extremely seriously. And we don't feel that the American people have been given the information they need on that. And we're digging through the files, and we're getting them a more robust picture of what happened and whether or not there were any connections.
I get all that, and I also understand investigations underway, and there's potential prosecutions for people who are living, but he's dead. And we knew a lot more about a lot of different people than we know about that guy. And you know, there's people that circulate all kinds of stuff, that it was an inside job or there was foreign influence or whatever. Can we say that it's not that?
And that's a great example of people looking for things where things don't exist. In that specific case, since that individual is dead, we are able to say a lot more, unlike the Merchant case in New York, which is ongoing.
Still need the answers. Still need the answers. We interviewed Chrissy Nome, and she said that she can't say that he was acting alone. So we still need the answers. But I'm glad they're obviously doing this style of press to open themselves up to these answers. There is a blunt question about, will people actually go to prison for all this? Because Kash Patel has described an enormous amount of criminal behavior, from Epstein to January 6th cover-ups to assassinations. And the answer to that...
Somebody says, how long is that going to take? You know, we always see investigations in Washington that end up in blue ribbon commissions, and it doesn't seem like anything comes from it. Do you think actual prosecutions will come from some of this stuff?
I think from some of this stuff, when we go back and look at things like the pipe bomber case, the cocaine in the White House, January 6th, and Crossfire Hurricane, the prosecutorial decisions will lay at the Department of Justice. But we are rigorously investigating them, and I think we've developed some great leads. And I also think we're not going to wait for any blue ribbon commissions. That's up to Congress. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. They're a coordinate branch of government. But we've got answers coming on all these matters.
They have answers coming, and correct, the FBI doesn't charge people. The FBI doesn't decide whether someone goes to jail or not. The FBI is an investigative unit. They give all of their information to the Department of Justice. Department of Justice makes the decision. So the Department of Justice should make a decision on James Comey. And this is the only clip where Kash Patel broke character and went completely and totally scorched earth. He had it out for Comey. This is just ripping the bark off on Brawler.
Shells 8647.
You know, the FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey is a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was the leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal FISA court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
Well, James Comey was just on talking about all of that, the seashells and everything, and he also talked about you.
Obviously, you start with the fact that the guy has literally nothing in his entire adult life that prepares him for this role, and so that's deeply concerning to start with. In a way, I a little bit sorry for the guy. He's barked at the FBI nonsense for years, and now he not only caught the car, he's got to drive the car. And so that is a daunting task for him. I hope he lets the career people do their jobs, but they've already forced out a bunch of good career people and sent a chill through the organization.
That's James Comey.
If he wants to come after me, no problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we've had to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director?
Is that right?
Do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke, and they can do it because he did it. That's what I'm having to deal with every single day. And that's what I'm having to pull my agents and analysts off, because he thought it was funny to go out there and make a political statement.
So smarter legal minds than us, Viva Fry over here, says, I appreciate the FBI but doesn't have the authority to press charges against Comey, but they do have the authority to make recommendations. Kash should make a recommendation that Comey gets charged. There will be far fewer copycats when you go after the big dog who blew the whistle. Pam Bondi, arrest Comey. It's not a joke. The consequences of lawlessness are real, and they're intended. And of course, Donald Trump has already survived, 5 assassination attempts that we know of. No doubt there's twice as many that we don't know of, maybe 5 times as many as we don't know of. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the new Kash Patel interview. More to come. Seems like Kash and Dan are ready to deliver some real bombshell stuff, from January 6th to Epstein to the realities that the deep state have tried to keep from us for a very long time. And ladies and gentlemen, I think they're just getting started. Dr. Fauci, not sleeping well tonight. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.